Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. I am out here once again at the San Marcos Theater, which is unfortunately shutting down. I just found out that they're changing ownership and it's turning into a winery of some kind. So it's pretty big for a winery, but or something involving alcohol. I didn't really read it too much, but I saw the fine print on the wall, so it's very unfortunate. So I don't know if this may be the last time that I may be at this theater. Hopefully not, but we'll see. They've always had, a fair selection of smaller projects that don't get a lot of reach in other theaters around here. So it's a bit unfortunate. But one of those smaller films I went to check out today. It was a film I was actually very curious to see based on the trailer that I saw. And that film is Small Things Like These, which, forgive me, I do not know the name of the director, Tim something. I do not know who wrote it, but it does star Cillian Murphy as Mr. Below, and he operates a small business within this small town, and he delivers coal to people around the town, and it's Christmas season, so his business is rather booming as it is. A lot more demand as there is. And as we see Cillian Murphy's character, he appears rather distant from everything. There's a lot of eternal dialogue going on rather than external dialogue. And there's echoes of his past and a lot about relations to his mother and how that informs his present self. There's suggestion that of guilt and about perhaps how he could have helped in a dire situation and within that a tragic circumstance that unfolded. And in his present, as he is delivering coal to the church, which is very pivotal to the small town, as they actually contribute quite a bit to helping this town grow, as it were. They supply certain things here and there, and one day he notices a little girl who is, basically who has having trouble, and the exchange, presents curiosity in him. He wonders what's happening inside the church, and eventually he does get into the church, and what he finds in the church is something extremely, extremely alarming in how young ladies who are in the church and quote unquote helping in the church are actually involved in something incredibly sinister. And with this information, with a young girl that he meets within very disturbing circumstances, he is now in this dilemma, this moral dilemma of what he needs to do. Does he take action and do something about it, or does he just, as everyone else is telling him to do, to just leave it as it were, because there are bigger consequences that are not just himself but other people around him, the town as well. So it leaves him in a state as the film also is, in a state of stress, but also that of just great heft. And going into this, I didn't really know what to expect. The trailer was very interesting to me, but I didn't know what to expect of it. And what I got out of it, I think, is something just dense in overall mood. Now, the story itself is very straightforward. You know exactly what is happening, because the thing that I illustrated earlier is that the film, as it presents our main character, is through a lot of eternal dialogue, and within that there is the large volume of that of silence. There's very little. There is dialogue, literal dialogue that is taking place, but the aura that the film inhabits is something that is very mute and very quiet and extremely suggestive and very subtle. Kind of plays on that of the title, Small Things Like These, where it's very much operating on a subtle nature, absolutely so. And within that subtlety, it is also very simplistic, in terms of just understanding the knowledge of the situation. It's very simplistic. There is, at least maybe to me, maybe it's just a fault of me not paying attention to certain details, but there's a vagueness to some extent to some of its to its developments of our main character's backstory. But there is a forefront. There is definitely a bridge between those stories that give the present circumstances more heft and a more personal lens as well. You get more of an understanding as to why Cillian Murphy's character, Mr. Beloy, would want to help people in the church, specifically this young little girl named Sarah. But rather beyond that simplistic knowledge, that's kind of falling into a very, very knowing idea. Because if you know anything about the church, there are extremes. There are things that very unfortunately happen in the church, and the film is very much exploring that. And as I said, with a very subtle and a very silent demeanor. Which in my opinion, into the overall delivery of that, I felt to be very, very powerful, and I felt to be very properly understated. Like it's not to where it is just this, where where it's just like in your face sort of thing, showing you crazy, like the film. What I really admire about the film is the fact that the film doesn't have to show you anything in order to present its claim, in order to translate the horrors of what was happening inside the church. The film never shows you anything. It just shows you Cillian Murphy's face, his responses to whatever he is looking at. And in that, there is this added layer of anxiety and this added layer of uncertainty, for that you don't even know what it is that he is seeing, even though it is quite apparent as to the overall knowledge of what is happening. So and speaking of Cillian Murphy, I think he is terrific in this. I think that he, a small detail about his character that is put out throughout the film is that there's an emphasis on his breath. When he is around, you just hear him like this little, his breath just every so often just having a higher or more softer pitch to his breath, and it's to illustrate his overall state and his growing anxiety within gaining more information and having to wrestle with what he perhaps is, what may in fact be the right thing or the wrong thing to do, which is the thesis of the film, obviously, is that of morality and about selflessness versus selfishness within this very, very within this very raw and very sensitive subject matter. So I think that it's done very well, and I think that there's a great performance at the center of it. I like the overall delivery in its atmosphere and its environment. It's very, very, very subtle, and it plays on that. Small things like these. That's the kind of on a technical level. That's kind of how the film kind of the title speaks in that of its demeanor, and it's in the overall mood of the film. But it also illustrates a lot about the state of which this town is in. This is a town that is plagued by the church, and a town that is plagued by the church's dominance, and the knowledge again of what is happening. It's not that it's just this character knows; it's that the town itself is aware to that, and their necessity, to a certain extent, to remain quiet and to just move on. And that's again how the title kind of plays onto that. So and also in dissecting Cillian Murphy's character, in how he is, with how he does things, with analyzing himself, his loneliness, his distance, and about what he does within his routines, within his existence, looking out through a window, and how that is reflective of his past, and how he looks at a book or a jigsaw puzzle, something like that, that triggers, or is that reflects his past experiences, and once again informing that of his future or his present decision making. Um, so I think that there is just a richness in its execution, a richness in its performances, specifically of Cillian Murphy. I think he's just terrific in this, and it is very simple in terms of what is happening. You know exactly what it is that is happening, but what I think that the film does more so than anything is to highlight the horror of that circumstance, and more about the horror of having that knowledge and being put in a position that may, in fact, do more harm than good. But perhaps that thing that you do, that the thing that you need to do, it outweighs whatever it is that you have going on personally. Sometimes it is sometimes you just have to do the selfless thing because it is just simply the right thing to do, regardless of what it is going to happen to you, the consequences that will come for you. So I think it's very good. I think it's a very, very well made film, and there I teared up at some points, particularly in how it's symbolizing its connections to the past and the present. There's a point to the young girl being named Sarah, and by the end, when certain things happen with that character, I welled up. I started tearing up because I was starting to notice the parallels, and it's just I think very informative of that character and why it is, again, he makes the decisions that he does. And a lot of that, again, stems from the writing, and it stems from, because the writing in this, I think, is terrific as well, just how it lays out the circumstance. Even though it is all knowing, it's just the laying out of that knowledge is just, I think, very, very powerful, and very, very just very developed as well. So I think it's, again, just really, really great. And Cillian Murphy at the center of this, I think, just does just a magnificent performance. So I was really, really involved in it, really invested. And as I've illustrated many times, it is a film that what is happening, but it is not a piece that is going to pull back the curtain. It's a film that's all about keeping that closed, and having someone else take a peek, and not us, and see and following in that character's dealing with that information. It shields us for a reason, and it's very, very beneficial in dissecting that circumstance and in building up that character itself. So I thought it was just very, very good, and I think it just, again, just hit me, and on both an emotional level and in building up this sense of dread. Like, there's some points where I was just like, my demeanor was just like this, where I was just getting tense, and then once these frankly just haunting scenes pass, it then just became, I just caught myself where I just went, so yeah, if you can see it, please check it out. I know it has a limited release, at least here, and I mean, if you go to this theater, it's limited for all these films, frankly. But if you do, if you're debating on seeking it out, please seek it out. It's very, very good. Simple in terms of what it is about, but in the execution of it, it's extremely subtle, and within that, very powerful and very informative in both ways, in the subject and in the study of its character. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Small Things Like These. I thought it was very good. I really was enthralled with it. I was really invested into it, very intrigued. Just very, very good stuff. Very, very powerful. So you guys, what are your thoughts on Small Things Like These? If you guys have seen it, again, having a limited run here, so if you guys can check it out, check it out as soon as you can, because it's probably not going to be here anytime soon. I don't know how it is wide release wise, but if you can't see it, check it out. But if you guys have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.